which we call the Twilight Zone.
See it occur, and you look at Steph and Clay, and even Draymond with his lack of
Has it 2 in a row, 7 points for him. The twirling Doncic, melting into the defense. The front carry strikes. Swing, fly ball, well hit left center. Ronald Acuna has homer. Rookie rushing record for the Steelers.
Look, he came into this game averaging 3.67 yards per carry. 42nd out of 49 qualified rushers.
Freeze to begin the third quarter. It has been incredible. Here he comes again. Oh, goodness. And a Greek basketball god. And he was a great guy that teaches that
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Dingers, Dunks, and Drives. I am Corey. With me this evening is Todd. How you doing this evening, Mr. Gotcha?
Beautiful. It's been a minute since it's been just a Daddy's Only podcast.
Daddy's Only podcast, that's right. Bobby and Aaron have the night off, so we're going to be holding it down for Week 17 and what is possibly the largest Monday Night Football, the most important, the most pivotal, the most exciting Monday Night Football matchup that we have seen in a long time, at least coming into the week. And we will get to that tonight. I promise you. We're going to be joined by one of the Mafia Sports Report guests or hosts, Mike. He had something come up. So, Mike, we wish you and your family all the best, and hope everything's going all right. We'll catch you next time, more than likely in the AFC Championship game. But we'll see. Let's not get too far ahead of our skis here before we get into it. But we got a good show for you tonight. So we're going to break down every single Week 17 game that we're coming into right here. 2 weeks left of college football, or excuse me, of the NFL. Pretty crazy. We'll kind of touch a little bit on some of the games that happened last week. But first and foremost, we'll be crowning a champion here in the next few days. Ryan, thanks for liking the video. Amy jumping into the chat already saying, go Bills.
Go Bills.
So Bills Mafia is coming out strong. Wait till they learn who we are. But no, we appreciate you guys coming through. Of course, we are syndicated. We are multi-broadcasting right now, not only on the Rally Town Sports YouTube page, but also on the Mafia Sports Report YouTube page. So whether you're coming to us through Rally Towel or whether you're coming to us through Mafia Sports Report, we appreciate you so much. Go ahead and subscribe to that other page as well. But before we get into some NFL action, Todd, like I said, we are going to be crowning a national champion here in the next few days. And of course, I'm talking about the college football playoff, which gets started on Saturday, I believe, 4:00. We got Michigan, I believe. Is that the first matchup?
That is the first matchup of the CFP.
Michigan taking on the Horned Frogs of Texas Christian University, home of Andy Dalton. So, Todd, let's just kind of go through these matchups relatively quickly here. We got a lot of games to get to. What are we looking for in this matchup? Who are you taking to win?
So if you watched TCU in the Big 12 championship against Kansas State, which we saw that they lost, and really an absolute heartbreaker. I believe they scored twice on one drive, did not get a touchdown on either of those downs.
Which is bullshit,
mistaken.
by the way.
Yeah.
They scored fucking twice. All right, they scored twice. All right,
two times in a row. As a matter of fact, did not get the tutty. Ended up losing in a heartbreaker. Obviously, still made the college football playoffs. Thanks to USC and their blunders in the Pac-12 championship. But the thing is if you've watched Michigan really in the last month, that defense is aggressive. And this is the big thing about Michigan that's put them in a successful place the last 2 years is their quality of pressure on the quarterback and then their ability to man cover with their secondary. That's kind of the key to their success. And they're going to have their really arguably probably their biggest challenge of the year, Quentin Johnson from TCU at 6'5", 215 pounds, likely the first wide receiver off the board in this upcoming draft class. And you're going to see them Max Duggan is going to force him one-on-one with him. We're going to see if we can cover him. But I think the big thing is that they'll keep the ball on their side of the field. And they'll get ahead early, and it'll be really hard for TCU to come back. So I'm taking the Wolverines to take it to the national championship.
Yeah, I'm kind of agreeing with you. We're looking at two different schools of offense here. We got speed and we got power, but we got a better defense here that travels, and I'm going to be taking the Wolverines as well. Moving on to the next matchup later in prime time, we got the defending national champion University of Georgia Bulldogs taking on the Ohio State University and the Buckeyes. Is there any chance for Ohio State to pull this off and we get a rematch of the game in the national championship?
So I think that here's your opportunity for Ohio State to put up or shut up, because all year they were at some point the number one overall team in college football, right? There were a lot of Buckeye fans arguing that they should get that number one overall. Bama goes down, Tennessee goes down, Georgia slips into that top spot. Ohio State fans are devastated. Then they go and play Michigan at home, right? Let's not forget they played that at Ohio Stadium in front of 90,000 people and played like absolute dog shit, which, again, I can't express this enough. I lost no sleep over that for me to watch. But the big thing is Ohio State's going to have to put points up on the board, and they're going to have to do it with limited time, because the one thing that this Georgia defense does really well is it keeps opposing teams off the field. There's a ton of 3-and-outs. If you watch them at all in the SEC championship, LSU scored most of their points when Georgia was up by more than 3 touchdowns. Georgia started allowing them to air it out more and kind of stretch the field a little bit differently. But Ohio State has the ability. CJ Stroud, obviously a top 3 prospect up in this upcoming draft, has the ability to space out the field and take care of business. But again, the quantity of pressure that Georgia provides, and again, maybe the number one overall pick in the draft in Jalen Carter. We have no idea where he's going to fall yet. Obviously, Todd McShay stating he has some character issues, which he just does that every year. I think he just picks a guy out of a hat and just says, this guy's character issues, who, if we watch him in prime time, there's no character flaw there. I'm taking Georgia, and I'm going to say, if you're not taking the over on that 6.5 spread, you're going to miss out on some money.
So you're taking Georgia to cover as well. And that's an interesting point. I think in terms of, just raw talent, when you look at each of these rosters, I think it's pretty clear which one is above the other. I think Georgia has pretty much beaten the brakes off of most of the people that they've played against. And like you said, anytime it's been close on paper, if you're just looking at the box score and you're going to tell me that anybody has really compete with them in these games, it really hasn't been close for most of these games. Even the game against Tennessee, obviously, it just absolutely kicked their teeth in. They're just a step above everybody else. And I think that's just SEC football versus the rest of the country. And a lot of people get tired of this narrative. They get tired of this narrative. Oh, SEC, there's 2 Big Ten teams in the playoff. Cool. That's great. There are 2 Big Ten teams in the playoff. By default, there are 2 Big Ten teams in the playoff. Ohio State and Michigan are in. Cool. Neither of them are better than Georgia. Georgia is going to win the national championship walking away, in my opinion. But we'll see what happens. Are you taking Michigan for an upset, Todd, or do you think Michigan or Georgia just walks this thing out just like they did last year?
I think, look, Stetson Bennett is 37 years old. He's been in college since before we were in college. He has so much game experience that he can lead anybody through this valley. No, but I just think you're right. I just don't. There's Georgia, and then there's the rest of college football right now. At least this year, right? And I think even last year, we saw kind of that introduction. That Kirby Smart defense is just so big, so fast. He continues to put NFL talent on his roster on the defensive side of the ball specifically, and it just makes it impossible to move the ball on these guys. I mean, when you have a guy like, again, Jalen Carter bull rushing the center of your offensive line, who's bigger and faster than both your guards, it's hard to stop that. So. Yeah, it's Georgia to me winning the national championship. Obviously, we'll find out Saturday and then again on January 9th, but crazy.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. I'll be tuned in. No doubt gonna be watching these games. I just wish the national championship was on a Monday. I just wish that it wasn't on a Monday. It's on a Monday every year. But it's just so frustrating. Amy coming in with a comment here saying, "Where's Tommy? If Mikey isn't there." So Tommy's actually syndicating. He's broadcasting our show as well on his channel. So we appreciate you coming out, and go ahead and hop on over to Rally Tile Sports and drop a subscription over there. Coming to the See on the Rebound, Tommy. Tommy's at work, obviously, and saying, let's fucking go Buffalo. So Bills Mafia in the house tonight. We will be getting to that game later this evening. I think it's time to get into the picks, Todd.
Let's get it.
I think it's time to get into Week 17 picks. Let's get it popping. This is what everybody comes here for. We appreciate you. Let's give you an update on the standings. We have 2 weeks of regular season to go to determine whether or not what are we doing? Are we carrying this out through the playoffs, or are we allowing the top 2 to go to the playoffs? How are we going to handle this?
I think it's top 2, right? I mean,
top 2 go to the playoffs.
Yeah, it gets a little spicier in the playoffs. There's a little bit more on the line. I think last year it was easy because there were just 3 of us, right?
Sure.
So you just let everybody move through. But there's some skin in the game now when adding Aaron in, obviously, this season. It makes it a little bit more more spicy. So
let's go ahead and get you an update on these standings. So Bobby and Todd both sit at 143 and 80. 2 games ahead of them sits Aaron at 144 and 79, and your boy has taken the lead now. I got a 2-game lead at 146 and 77. Shout out to a couple of my solo picks. Shout out to Andy Dalton going 13 and 5, 13 and 5 against the Browns, and shout out to Dallas Cowboys, man. I took the Cowboys on a flyer.
You did.
I took the Saints.
That
on
was
a flyer.
A great game. That Cowboys-Eagle game was beautiful. That is the NFL. I think that everybody craves when they watch a game, especially it's Christmas. No matter what time, it's a prime time game. When you sit down and you watch that game from beginning to end. Obviously, the Eagles with no Gardner Minshew, no Jalen Hurts with Gardner Minshew subbing in. It was a fun football game. A ton of points, a ton of big plays. A lot of shit talking, a lot of pushing and shoving on the field. It was great. It was perfect football for, obviously the masses sitting down and watching the game.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I'm taking away from this is I have no idea which is the better team out of the NFC East. The first time we get the Eagles against Cooper Rush, and now this time we're getting the Cowboys taking the win over Gardner Minshew. No Jalen Hurts to be found. So. Speaking of which, Jalen Hurts didn't practice today.
Did not practice today.
But we'll get to that game in a little bit. Starting things off tomorrow night, the last Thursday night football game of the year, we have the Dallas Cowboys and the Tennessee Titans lining up for what apparently is going to be a preseason matchup because nobody's starting in this game, Todd. There's nobody playing. Derrick Henry is expected to be out. Obviously, Ryan Tannehill is going to be out. Jeffrey Simmons is out. The Titans aren't suiting anybody up, and you're asking me, why is this the case? Well, that's because this game doesn't matter for the Titans. Doesn't matter for the Jaguars either in their slate that we'll get to, but both of these teams could lose, the other team win. It doesn't matter. All of it's coming down to Week 18 for the AFC South in that matchup of Jaguars versus Titans, but we'll obviously talk about that at another time. Todd, looking at this one, Cowboys, Titans, who you got?
This is the easiest game of the week for me. It's the Cowboys. I think even if Derrick Henry's healthy, everybody suits up. Tannehill, we already know, is going to be out for the season. I can't pick anybody but whoever is playing Tennessee right now. That offense is horrendous. And when you put it, we watched it obviously on Christmas Day watching the Rams Broncos game where if you put a defense on the field for 30 minutes or 23 minutes of a half, you give up points, and that's exactly what's going to happen to Tennessee here.
Yeah, I'm kind of following the same school of thought with this one. It's a game that doesn't matter for Tennessee. You're not going to see any of their stars out there. I think they're trying to get healthy and get right because it's literally a divisional championship game coming up. But furthermore, they haven't shown me any reason to have faith in them. There's no reason for me to trust the Titans or think that they're going to put a good product out on the field. This is an easy slam dunk. Amy agrees as well. She's coming in with the Cowboys. So the three of us two and our new co-host here for the night, Amy, coming in with another one. Go ahead.
Tennessee's lost 4 straight.
I believe it's more than. I believe it's 5 straight. If I'm not mistaken.
5? Is it 5 now? I think you're right. I think it was 4 going into that game.
So they've lost since the Bengals game. The Bengals continuing. They have since then lost 5 straight. Have Tennessee. Cowboys, obviously, they've won 4 of their last 5. It's a better team. Even if we're going second string versus second string here, the Cowboys are just clearly the better team. Yeah. So some kind of talk again. Amy put this out here. Ryan Tannehill sucks anyway. LOL Cowboys. So there's a lot of news that Tannehill is going to be out next year as a quarterback for the Titans.
Yep.
We're hearing some things about Derek Carr, and news is he's benched for the rest of the season.
He's not even participating for the rest of the season. He is elected to walk away.
Cheers.
From the Raiders to avoid being a distraction. That is how they worded it. So to avoid being a distraction, Derek Carr has walked away from the Raiders for the rest of this season.
Wow. Brian, thanks for liking the stream, man. Appreciate you dropping by. Chewy coming in with a Team Tommy. Appreciate you coming by the stream and coming in with a Go Bills. Cheers, buddy. Can't share the sentiment on the first part, but we will on the second one, and we'll be getting to that Monday Night Football matchup here in just a bit. But yeah, so I think we're both going with the Cowboys over the Titans. Derek Carr to the Titans later on this offseason. Who knows? Should be another very interesting offseason quarterback carousel, if you will, as it has been the last couple of seasons, to be honest with you. So looking at the next matchup here, I think we got the Cardinals going into Atlanta to take on the Dirty Birds. Todd, did we see anything new out of Desmond Ridder last week that's given you more hope for his play?
No. I think Desmond Ridder is catching up on, obviously NFL snaps are so much different than college football, but if I've seen anything in the last couple of weeks with him on the field is that he makes the running game better, right? I mean, we see Tyler Algier come out and really spot up and be the guy. And as a rookie, it's important for Atlanta because they have a lot of ground to rebuild on. And they're going to have a lot of money next year to play with, thanks to the Colts for taking on Matt Ryan's contract. So they're going to have an opportunity to go out and draft some guys. Obviously, they've gone out and drafted, weapons and Kyle Pitts and Drake London to throw to. Now, really the missing piece to me is a quarterback that can get him the ball. And I still believe Desmond Ridder is that guy. I don't think that you draft another quarterback and, take a chance on him. I think Desmond Ridder is a guy that you got to give a full season of time to try to get the ball out and get better. But it's just been tough because the Falcons offensive line is also so bad that when you're a rookie quarterback and you get into this league and you're running for your life, we watched Justin Fields do it. You just don't make the right decision. It's hard to make the right decision. So I'm still taking him against the Cardinals though.
Because we have a rule here. What is our rule at Rally Town Sports, Todd?
It's after you cut the bird, you don't bet on the bird, on the red bird.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Colt McCoy, Trace McSorley, whoever you're going to throw out, you just can't. You just can't. You can't bet on the Cardinals right now. I just watched them almost beat. Actually, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. Just handed Tampa Bay that game, right? Just gave it right back to them. They had the game won for all of the second half, and then you just hand it over to them at the end of the game. And obviously, Tampa Bay wins in overtime, but Colt McCoy doesn't make that team much better either. So I'm taking the Falcons. It's Desmond Ridder's first NFL win. I can't wait to send him a celebratory congratulations tweet for getting that dub. And I'm looking forward to seeing Tyler Algier put 100 plus yards up on the ground.
Yeah, I really think you're kind of hitting the nail on the head with Desmond Ridder. He's going to need a lot more time. He's going to need a little bit more development, and that's to be expected. I don't think he got drafted where he got drafted for a reason. That being said, I do think out of the 3, Pickett, Willis, and Ridder, I think he will be the best quarterback out of those 3. Whether or not that's saying a lot is yet to be determined, but we'll have to see a little bit about that. In this game, yes, I am taking I'm taking the Falcons, we don't bet on the red bird after you cut the bird. It's just a simple rule. You don't do it. The Cardinals continuously show us how shitty they are once things get a little bit colder. Even if they're playing in a dome, it doesn't matter. Once the winter solstice happens, They just fail. All right. Outside of that, one thing I would be looking for here is if the Cardinals, if you're looking for a flyer here in fantasy, if you're in your championship game and you have no other options at quarterback, McSorley's not a bad call because that Falcons secondary is atrocious. It's very, very bad. I'm expecting a lot of points to be put up in this one. We'll have to wait and see how it goes. I, of course, though, am taking the Falcons. So we've been chalked the whole way through here, Todd, and we're getting to a matchup including one of our favorite teams as a family, as a Rally Towel Sports family. They're one of our favorite teams. Obviously, you and I are both Bengals fans. Bobby is a Steelers fan, and Aaron is a Browns fan. We have tons of Bills fans that come in and hang out with us from from Mafia Sports Report. But our family team is, of course, the Detroit Lions. And Todd, they let us down last week, didn't they, buddy?
They did. Oh man. So here's my thing, and I don't know what your big takeaway was from obviously Carolina. I believe 325 yards on the ground against Detroit last week.
Mm-hmm. Bad.
That's horrible, right? Like, and here's the thing. I think Devonta Foreman has given himself a nice reintroduction to being an RB1 in this league, and he's done a good job of making himself a household name. But Chuba Hubbard also had 100 yards on the ground, and he's not it. To me, he's not it.
No.
And Detroit just had no answer, and they were on the field. Their defense was on the field for forever. It just seemed like I've watched Carolina 4 times this year, and that was the first time where I was like, shit, this offense looks pretty good. Like that sentence when I said it out loud, I was watching with my brother-in-law. He was like, "What'd you say?"
Yeah, what'd you just fucking say? Like Sam, I don't know. Sam Darnold might fucking have it, man. I don't know.
I was like, did Sam Darnold figure it out? Was New York, was it just a curse? Was it too big of a city for him? And he was like,
to be fair, his coaches have been Adam Gase. Excuse me. It's been who's his coach? Original coach in New York, was it Gase? Yeah. So is Gase and then Matt Rule. Those were his 2 head coaches. Were Sam Darnold. So. Okay, all right. Maybe there's something to his formative years. Probably not with the best head coaches that he could ever have had. But I'm not ready to say that Sam Darnold is him. Yeah, right.
He's not him. No, he is not him.
He is not. But the thing that was just blowing my mind, and it's Christmas Eve, and I got the Bengals Patriots game on one TV, and I got the Lions Panthers on the other TV. You know, my in-laws were in town, spending some family time together. And I'm just watching it, and I just eventually, I started going like, come on, dude, stop him. And then eventually, I just get tired of saying that, and I have to stop it because it's just not fun to watch my father-in-law just get sad about his team because, dude, it's fucking crazy. Like 15 yards before contact on some of these plays. And you're just like, what are you doing? There were
no adjustments either. No, zero.
Absolutely. Getting a little heated here in the chat, and we appreciate the fire and everything. So keep it coming. We got Burrow for life coming in saying y'all got to play us. Amy chirping back saying you'll be crying on Tuesday. Let's go Buffalo. Amy coming with a comment here on the Lions as well. Lions are playing great ball. Give them another year or two. No, absolutely, Amy. I think you're 100% correct. Give them another year or two. I think that they have kind of exceeded expectations for this season, particularly seeing as they started at 1-6 to start the season. Todd, don't you agree?
Yeah, I think the big thing when you look at this team is that the reason they lost a lot of games last year was just roster to roster, right? And they'd get into a close game, and then it was kind of SOL, same old Lions, right? You lose in a heartbreaker at the end. But you're talking about a team that took Buffalo to the last, 30 seconds of the game?
Sure. I mean, odd circumstances with that game being that the team had to travel the week prior to Detroit.
They were already in Detroit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, you're talking about a team they were within 30 seconds of beating right now the best team in the AFC.
Yeah, the Eagles as well. They almost swept the Vikings. There's a lot to be happy about for Detroit, but there's also a lot to fix. And I think some of the thing that comes with being a good team, what separates, teams like the Bills, the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Niners, that upper echelon, those top 3 teams in each conference currently. What separates those teams from a team like the Lions that's kind of on the cusp and coming up is the ability to be consistent when you play your football games, right? Consistently getting the same product week in and week out, or at least something relatively close to it. And when you're not getting it, when you're not getting your best, other aspects of your game being able to rise up and kind of close the deal on that. Because let's be honest, that offense wasn't keeping pace with them either. It's not like the Lions offense was keeping pace with Carolina there. But let's get to the game for this week as the Bears. Shout out to Rob, longtime Rally Tell Sports family member. Rob, we appreciate you. Hope you're coming in tonight and hanging out with us because we're talking about your Bears. They're going to Ford Field to take on Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. Massive game, win or go home for Detroit. They also need a little bit of help to get into the playoffs. Todd, what we've seen out of Justin Fields out of the last few weeks has been nothing short of awesome. It's exactly what you want to see out of your Bears team right now. If you're a Bears fan, which is the offense is looking good, rather Justin Fields is looking good, but they're losing games and they're getting a higher and higher draft pick. So where are we at on the on the Bears going into this matchup?
So a ton of injuries at the wide receiver position, which is already significantly below average, right? You're looking at them toe-to-toe with the NFL. So it's going to be dependent upon David Montgomery, Justin Fields, and now a healthy Khalil Herbert getting the ball and running the ball very similarly to the way that Carolina did last week against Detroit. But I just don't think that this Bears defense has the ability to stop Jared Goff in this Lions offense right now. I think something that Carolina does well that Detroit did not prepare for necessarily when I was watching them was that Carolina just put good pressure on Jared Goff, and he just struggled. And I think the offensive line for Detroit, who is above average, a top 8 offensive line, had a hard time with the quantity of pressure. Right, Wilkes decided to bring the house quite a bit, especially on third down, and there was just the playbook just wasn't fit for it. So I don't think Chicago has quite the same ability. I do expect Detroit to win this game, especially at Ford Field. I think Ford Field will be loud enough that you'll be able to hear it from your house. It's a big game. You're right. It's win or go home, and I think they win.
Yeah, this is if you go into the season, or you go into the season on Hard Knocks talking about we're going to be the team that drags you out into the fucking deep water and then drowns you out there. This is the game that you got to fucking show it, right? The Bears are a bad football team. No hard feelings there, Rob, but the Bears are a bad football team, and if you can't beat them, you don't belong in the playoffs. So that being said, I think the Lions are better, and I think they get the dub on this one. Yeah. Moving forward, this is kind of a preseason exhibition game here. Before we get to that, we're going to be talking about the Jaguars and the Houston Texans. Todd, let's just go ahead. I was going to get to some of the questions here in the chat, which we will do. But Todd, go ahead and lay this one out. Jaguars at Texans. Texans obviously notching the win last week, getting the second of the season. But are you anything crazy going on in this one?
No, I think we continue to watch T-Law get better and better week over week. This is a good defense for him to take some risks, right? Obviously, we're talking about a team that took Dallas into the final minute of the game, took Kansas City the week after into overtime and really kept them on their heels, and then coming out and getting a dub against the Titans. So you're talking about 3 good weeks of football in a row for the Texans, but Jacksonville's they're hot right now. They're red hot. And Trevor Lawrence just continues to look more confident. Obviously, his thing is just one play turnover, big turnover, but he gets the ball back and he makes big plays right afterwards. He doesn't let that shit get in his head. I expect, especially with this being an AFC South matchup, regardless, it doesn't mean anything for them to win the division, but
neither team, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I think Jacksonville wants a winning record this year. I think they're fighting for that winning record now. And it's been six years since they've had a winning record, 5 years. And I think it's the young guys are coming together and they're getting it right. Yeah,
I just, again, when we're coming down to these games that don't really matter, I just gotta have to go with the better roster, and I wholeheartedly believe that that's going to be the Jaguars. So I also am taking the Jags. Todd, you're I should note here, you're writing these down, right?
I am, yeah.
Okay, awesome. We didn't even clarify that before the show, but we got that daddy wavelength going on right now. This is Daddy's night, as Todd and I are holding it down for the rest of the crew as they are handling their business outside of the show. Let's get to a couple things in the chat. we'll go ahead and do a quick open air session. If you are watching the show right now, go ahead, drop your questions no matter what game it is, college football playoffs, any NFL game. Go ahead and drop your questions and comments in the chat right now, and we will go ahead and discuss them. First one is coming to us from Brian. Brian is saying, is Witt coming back for a Super Bowl run? What's your opinion? Good move, Todd. I'll go ahead and take this one first and then hand it over to you if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Is of course what Brian's referring to here is Andrew Whitworth, a long-time Cincinnati Bengal left tackle, recent Los Angeles Rams Super Bowl champion, retired this last season. With the injury to Lyle Collins that happened last week, season-ending injury, I believe it's ACL and MCL, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So with those injuries happening, people are kind of reaching. I think here is what's happening. Akeem Adeniji is a 6th-round draft pick that's 25 years old out of Kansas, and he's got about almost 24 starts, if not 18 starts or so, being that young and that raw. I think what you're actually going to be getting out of Akeem Adeniji is a more athletic version of what Lyle Collins could be. Now, Lyle Collins is stronger. Let's be very clear about that. There's a reason he starts. He is what you would call a glass eater, which is what the Bengals have coined their offensive line. This revamped offensive line are the glass eaters, just a mean motherfucker, and that's what Lyle Collins is. But Akeem Adeniji is just more athletic. He has better feet. He doesn't end up on his ass. So I think the Bengals, and Zach Taylor even said it in a press conference, I think they're very comfortable about who they have in the building. Todd, what are you thinking on this? Any chance?
No, I think Andrew Whitworth is one of those guys that I look forward to seeing him wear, the Canton blazer. I hope he retires as a Cincinnati Bengal. I hope
that's not a thing. By the way, I learned that that's not a thing.
I know.
It's not like
they don't retire it for a team, but I hope that's the black and orange is who he represents.
Let's put it this way: he's going in the Cincinnati Ring of Honor, not the Rams Ring of Honor. Let's be very clear about that. Yeah,
but I think the big thing, Corey, and you said it, I'll echo it, is that La'el Collins has a hard time staying on his feet. He struggles with these really first two-step quick pass rushers that get him on his toes.
TJ Watt, Micah Parsons.
Yes. And I think, and then we watched it with Myles Garrett too, and Jadeveon Clowney both. He had a hard time managing those guys. And the thing about Adeniji is where I think La'el Collins is the better run blocker. Adeniji has, I'll call him happy feet, where he has the ability to make quick adjustments and have quick feet to be able to, move, force an edge rusher to the inside if necessary, or force an edge rusher to the outside. He played very well on, basically coming off ice cold in a sub, 0-degree weather in New England. And I look forward to watching him play tackle. I think that he's a guy that I think sometimes youth is beneficial to an offensive line because I think they have the veteran stability in the center. So, I don't think you need Whitworth. I think Adeniji a good guy to run through the playoffs with.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We appreciate everybody coming in, whether you're through Rally Tile Sports or Mafia Sports Report. Go ahead and subscribe to both of those channels for us tonight. If you're joining us on Facebook, pop on over to YouTube and subscribe. YouTube, pop on over to Facebook. We appreciate you. We love you. You guys really make the show, so keep the chat on fire. Amy's been leading the way with us tonight with a question about Tua. Tua is out on concussion protocol. Will he be back this season? Todd, go ahead and take this one.
So there isn't a rule that says that if you have multiple concussions in the season that you have to sit out. I think that will change after this year. And I think Tua is the centerpiece of that.
Interesting.
We watched him have, obviously, concussion prior to the Thursday night game against the Bengals. And then, obviously, I think the whole world has now seen what happened on Thursday night in prime time, that really scary injury that he had. And then, obviously, we watched the second half of that Packers-Dolphins game, throw 3 interceptions to nobody in that seafoam green that they like to wear.
Dude.
Nobody. It was –
I'm kind of wearing it tonight, actually.
To answer your question, I think we will see him back. If they get that third wild card spot, I think he will come back for the playoffs.
Interesting. There's been a lot of talk in the national media saying that Tua should pull himself out for the rest of the season, that the future of his career is too much.
So let me be clear. I absolutely do not believe that he should step back foot on a football field this season. Your brain is way more important than a Super Bowl.
Sure.
Because he has another 40 plus years to live after he retires, right? We're talking about Tua having a 10 plus year career. You have to live another 40 years after that because he's going to be 34, 35 years old. We've seen what CTE does to these guys into their early, late 30s, into their early 40s. I'm thinking Junior Seau. He comes to my mind anytime.
Obviously, that's an extreme scenario, but it's still a reality. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you have to take care of yourself. That's the big thing for me for Tua, and I agree. I think he should take himself out for the rest of the season. I think he should take care of his brain. I think he should take time in the offseason to determine why he is so susceptible, because there is some susceptibility levels for people who get concussions, right? It's not everybody. That hit that he took in that Packers game, a lot of people have that same exact tackle with that quick whiplash and do not have concussions. And he's had two with almost the same exact play.
Exactly. And that's kind of where I was headed on that one. It wasn't that severe of contact that, at least the play that we believe led to the concussion. It could have been, something else. It could have been a routine bump of a defender getting to him and making contact in some way or the other, some, arbitrary contact that happened throughout the game. But that's the one that most people kind of lean on. And obviously Tua caught a lot of flack for his performance in that game. And then you're looking back and you're like, oh shit, I think this guy was concussed for most of the second half.
Yeah, he was seeing 15 people.
Which leads me to my next point. I stood up here last week and I made a point. Not that I don't like Mike McDaniel. That wasn't my point. I'm not sold on him. Is it Mike McDaniel's fault that Tua Tagovailoa got a concussion? Absolutely not. Is it Mike McDaniel's responsibility to put out a healthy player on the field? Yes, it is.
Yes.
It is his roster. It is his team. That is his to manage. Now, I like what he's done there. I think he's exciting. He's a player's guy. Everybody likes, playing for him. He connects with them. He's cool. Like that goes a long way these days, believe it or not. It helps rally the troops. But I think what I'm more so concerned about, other than just Mike McDaniel, because I don't want to get on this being about him, is the Dolphins organization is a trash organization, and I believe that wholeheartedly, that they don't know how to fucking manage their players properly.
Yeah.
They don't know how to do what's right on behalf of their players, because Tua continuously gets put in these positions where he is not being properly evaluated, and then it leads to this shit.
Yep.
And it's not okay. And what happens if he takes what happens if he takes another huge hit out on the field? After that, in that second half, he finished the game, guys. What happens if he takes another huge hit? And then we're seeing a disgusting play like we saw on Thursday Night Football against the Bengals, where nobody wants to watch that. Nobody wants to see that. It's horrific. And then we could be talking about much more serious things in football beyond this, which I think you're alluding to a little bit. It's just, I don't know where you get the national media coming down on franchises like the Bengals or the Browns or the Colts or all these other small market teams, but it just seems that these other franchises like the Dolphins they just get a pass because they're a big market, they appeal to a lot of people, and nobody wants to talk about the bullshit that goes along with it. Nobody wants to talk about it. And it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating.
It is. I think the big thing, the integral part of all of this is that the Dolphins are a very shitty, poorly ran organization. And a lot of what's happened on the field reflects upon their ability to make the right decision.
Sure.
Obviously, Tua going into that game against the Bengals, he clearly should not have cleared any protocols. They quickly tried to push that responsibility onto an independent physician, saying that, oh, he's cleared all these protocols, blah, blah, blah. And no, you are responsible for these players' health. And here's the thing. Every NFL player, regardless of a concussion or not, if they break their leg, they would do anything possible to get back out on the field. That is the mindset of an athlete that wants to win. They want to be on the field at all costs.
Yeah.
It is your responsibility as an organization to tell them that there are things greater than winning a football game, especially when it comes to the brain. right?
Yep.
That's the big thing. That's the scary thing to me, is that there's so much new research for these guys to be better and be healthier. And, helmets are the best they've ever been in terms of player safety. And we've seen more concussions this year than I can remember.
Sure.
It's because athletes, they're just athletes.
I think they're calling it a little bit sooner as well, which is a good thing. I think, recognizing a concussion is not a bad thing. So I don't think that an increase in concussions being diagnosed is necessarily a bad thing, or an increase of people entering concussion protocol is necessarily a bad thing, because what they're doing in that is evaluating that. So that could be the process just really working. This specific player, however, completely mismanaged by the entire organization. So with that being said, we're going to be getting to touchdown Teddy Bridgewater taking on the New England Patriots up in Foxborough. Patriots looking to bounce back after that heartbreaking loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. Huge game. Absolutely huge game for both of these teams in the AFC East. A division where we thought we might get 3-4 teams out of this division. Now it's looking like one, maybe two. Todd, who's gonna come out on top? Actually, you know what? I've been doing you a disservice.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
I've been doing you a disservice. We've been flowing. We've been gelling. I've been making you make all of the picks. I will lead it off here. So what we've got here in these two teams, and Bills fans, I hope you can appreciate this for joining us tonight. I've already done my piece on how I feel about the Miami Dolphins. The New England Patriots are an absolute shitstorm right now. Absolute shitstorm. I don't think there is anybody in that entire locker room that wants to play football with Mac Jones. They don't have a really viable option coming in behind him. Bailey Zappi, that didn't work out clearly. Brian Hoyer, he's like 432 years old. This is going to be an ugly football game. But that being said, Todd, I think there's going to be more consistency out of the running game with the New England Patriots at home, and that defense, because let's be clear, that defense is productive. They have a good pass rush. It's going to be interesting to see what Teddy can do when Judon's breathing down his throat. I'm taking the Patriots in this one.
See, I'm with you. That's the problem.
Man.
I mean, we watched the same game on Saturday, and those edge rushers for New England are scary. Matthew Judon is quickly becoming a top 5 edge rusher in the NFL, if he's not already. And I don't think there's a lot of response. I mean, you know, obviously Teron Armstead is back for Miami now, but not 100%. We watched New England's defense in the second half really stall the Bengals offense for the most part. And Teddy Bridgewater's not Joe Burrow. You know,
it's true, he's not.
Jeff Wilson Jr. is not Joe Mixon. You know, obviously Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are their own player, but you got to give them the ball first.
Yeah.
You got to give them the ball first. And I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater is going to be able to do it. And I love Teddy. I think his story in the NFL is one of my favorite. Obviously coming back from one of the worst injuries and really in the history of the game and finding his way back to a starting spot. But I got to take the Pats here. This Dolphins team is kind of reeling right now too. That's where I'm kind of coming from, is they've struggled since a hot start, and you know, a divisional game where things come to the line. I'm taking coaching here, and Belichick's a better coach than Mike McDaniel.
And we've already talked about this a few times on the show. When Miami comes up against a good defense, and the Patriots do have a good defense, at least statistically speaking, absolutely, you know, shut down the Bengals offense actually in the second half there. But the Dolphins kind of fold a little bit. And when they go against a top 10 defense, they're not as productive. We saw what they did against San Francisco. And I think you're going to see a little bit of that here this weekend against New England. Let's get back to the chat here. You guys have been fantastic for us tonight. Go ahead, if you don't already, subscribe to both Rally Towel Sports and to the Mafia Sports Report. So let's see here what we got. Amy's laughing at my comments on the Dolphins. Here's a good question for you. Since he has a player with a broken wrist/hand and playing him, why? So I think this is kind of along the comments about me talking about the mismanagement of Tua and playing him with a head injury versus Trey Hendrickson playing with a broken wrist.
Right.
Let's be clear. Trey Hendrickson finished the game that he broke his wrist on, then sat out the next game, and then came back for the Patriots game, wrapped, casted, things like that. To be honest, that's not that abnormal. I mean, that's not that crazy, especially on the offensive line, for you to see these individuals out there with a club, kind of a wrapped up hand or something like that. Todd, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, I think we saw a lot we've seen a lot of linebackers in our history. I very vividly remember Ray Lewis coming out with the club for several weeks in his time in Baltimore. Nobody batted an eye at it. And Amy, the big thing to me is that that's not your brain. That, right? Like, there's a significant difference between playing with a broken wrist that could be casted and not really further damaged to the point where it is right now, because it's it's
already broken.
It's also in a structure where it's not going to allow a lot of movement to that specific part where it's broken.
Mm-hmm.
That is a part of the game. Playing with broken fingers, broken wrists, stuff like that. That's a part of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob coming in with a comment. Rob, sorry you already missed the Bears game, man, but we appreciate you dropping by hanging out with us tonight. He says, wait, Terrell Owens reached out to Jerry Jones to come out of retirement for the playoff. He's almost
49. 49.
What's going on here, Todd? What is this shit?
So T.O.'s been trying to get back in the NFL for years, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure.
I believe he's been trying to get back into Dallas specifically for years. He's been in contact with Jerry Jones. I think he even said it, or his agent said it, for the last 5 years to try to get back into the game. Dallas is not that desperate. And also, shame on Terrell Owens for saying that he could still play today's game at 49 years old. You can't. The first
if there is one guy that I would bet that could do it, though, it would be him. If I had to pick any guy at that age to do it, it would be Terrell Owens, because of just the peak physical condition that he has been in his entire life, seemingly. And I'm of course having flashbacks of doing crunches in the driveway while he's waiting out his contract at Philadelphia and things like that. just an absolute unit.
He's a goober. He's just a goober. That's what he is. He's just a guy that loves attention, and Dallas is, obviously.
So he's been
T.Y. Hilton, and it's a good place for him to get some attention.
He's actually been playing football, I believe, in the fan-controlled league, if I'm not mistaken. So he has been. Yeah, he has been running it around a little bit, but I miss the good old days. But I think T.O., it's probably best if you sit this one out. So let's get back into the picks. Keep the comments and chats coming in, guys, and just keep dropping them in there, and we'll get to them as we can. We promise we appreciate you hanging out with us this evening. Next one that on the dock here, we've got the Denver Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs. Denver Broncos, obviously, they had a coach that just couldn't hack it, Todd.
Ooh.
And
dad jokes.
Yep, dad jokes.
Daddy's on podcast. Daddy's making dad jokes.
Had to let him go. Got absolutely embarrassed in front of all of their children on Nickelodeon as the Baker Mayfield-led Rams dropped a 50-burger on what is touted as one of the best defenses in football.
It was the best defense going into that game.
Absolute shocker. Absolute shocker. So looking ahead, is there any prayer? I think we're looking at like a 13.5-point spread on this one, Todd, if I'm not mistaken. Something along those lines.
12.5 right now on FanDuel.
I think it's pretty clear and cut, right? The Chiefs are going to win this football game.
I think Denver could throw anybody out there. It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
And it's obviously Hackett was having some issues, but I think the whole world's seeing now. Ripien went to bat for Russell Wilson, and Riesler just was like, "Fuck you, bring it."
Yeah.
They don't give a fuck about Russell Wilson. They don't care. Because you know what? This guy goes to them when they're sitting on the bench and is talking into a fucking football.
I think he was like trying to when a pitcher and catcher kind of have like a little rendezvous at the mound.
Because there's dugouts 15 steps away. There's nobody watching you talk to your offensive lineman, Russ.
Dude,
you're not moved.
Nothing just strikes me more than what Travis Kelce said a few weeks ago in his interaction with Russell Wilson. And God, I hope there's a camera on that midfield interaction, either before or after the game, where he said that Russell Wilson is kind of the guy that just tries, whatever the way you talk, he tries to match that. He tries to be that. He's not really his own person ever, which is it's just weird, man. And we all kind of know somebody like that at least at one point in our life we have interacted with, and everything inside of your being told you, get the fuck away from me. And I think having to deal with that week in and week out, knowing that the organization that you have played for or that has brought you in to play for them has allocated this much money, put this much of their the success of the franchise on the hands of this or on the back of this person, and this is what we're getting right now. It's got to be frustrating. It's got to be really frustrating.
Yeah, I think there's a certain point where you just reach your threshold of fucks to give.
Yep.
And everyone, the defense is clearly past it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I don't want to talk about Russell Wilson. I think the big thing for me is that you saw a team finally just wave the white flag, just wave it like crazy. This season's a wash. You don't have a first round pick next year. You might as well just call it quits for the season. Don't even throw Russ back out there. Just put Ripien out there for the rest of the year and then completely refocus. I don't know. I've been in a couple Walmarts recently. Even Walmart seems to be a little demoralized right now. It just nothing's going well with this decision. It's really been bad across the board with this new ownership so far.
So I think one thing to keep in mind is that interim head coaches are 15-5 in their first games.
That's ridiculous.
So
that's
just
a ridiculous stat.
So just keep that in mind as we have an interim head coach. I don't know. It's not Jeff Saturday. Maybe it's Mark Schlereth.
He won his first game too, didn't he? I mean, he beat the Raiders, right? So
Jeff Saturday. Ryan, thanks for liking the stream, man. Yes, he absolutely did. So just something to keep in mind. I, by the way, am taking the Chiefs in this matchup. Let me be very clear. But I will have my eye on it, particularly as the Bengals are looking up at the Chiefs in this one. So let's keep
Jerry Rosberg.
Jerry Rosberg. We all know Jerry. Everybody knows Jerry.
Here's the thing. Also not a coach.
Okay, so what did he do?
He was the
social media guy,
the game management operations manager.
He ran the clock. What did he do?
So the guy that was doing Lean Sigma 6 in the locker room is now fucking calling plays on the sideline. That's what's happened for any that's an operations joke for the world.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You have a little bit of that logistics. You know that life.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. All right. Next matchup, we've got about 4 more games in the 1:00 slate here. Indianapolis heading to New Jersey to take on the New York Football Giants in a win and get in game for the New York Giants. Now, obviously, the first 4 weeks of the season, you wouldn't be surprised. But after watching the Giants for the last 7 weeks, yeah, that's a little bit surprising here as the Giants have the ability to get into the playoffs. Rookie head coach. You got to be happy if you're a Giants fan, right? You got to be happy with the position that you're in.
Yeah. I think the big thing for me is that Brian Daboll's a player coach. We talked about it. There's a recipe to that. He had success in Buffalo, right? I mean, that's a franchise that, you look at that offense that became a high-powered offense pretty quickly with him as the OC, and obviously there's some things that are built into that. But anybody that could take an offense led by Daniel Jones and
that's it.
I mean, obviously Saquon's his own person, right? It's a different player for him, but
he's not the quarterback though, and that's
no,
it's a quarterback league.
And they're winning games, and they're winning games when it counts, right? I think we all counted them out against the Commanders on that primetime game, and they took care of business. They didn't keep Washington in that game whatsoever. I like them a lot more against the Colts than I do the Commanders. I feel sorry for Colts fans. I'm going to get to talk to one tomorrow. I'm going to express as much sympathy as I can, and then I'm going to ask him some tough questions because I think it's necessary at this point.
Sure. Like how much cocaine is Jim Irsay still doing?
Does it snow in Indianapolis in July?
Yeah.
You
just roll into Indianapolis and just young Jeezy is just playing as you come in. Yeah.
That's a good 2007 reference. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm taking the Giants here. We watched them against the Chargers. That defense, this is very similar to Denver, where I think everybody's just waving the white flag at this point, and they're just, they're looking to draft their future quarterback in April.
Yeah. So we're running chalk so far tonight, Todd. I think the Giants have the ability to become a playoff team this weekend. And if they're going to be a playoff team, they need to be able to beat a team like the Colts. I think they take care of business and move on into the postseason, which is something that all Giants fans are going to be celebrating for sure.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a while for New York football in general, Jets or Giants. Obviously, the Giants having won 2 Super Bowls in the last 15 years, they're okay with it. But the Jets, obviously, another story, having not been to the playoffs in the last 10 plus. But I think they take care of business, move past an abysmal Colts team, and move on into the postseason. I will say though, Bills fans, Zach Moss ran hard. I like the way he ran the football. For India when he was given the opportunities on Monday night against the Chargers. I liked the way that he ran, and I thought it was it was encouraging to see. It's kind of something that I think a lot of Bills fans wanted when Zach Moss was there, was a little bit more opportunities for him. Bills fans, feel free to jump in the chat and correct me there if you feel different, or praise me if you know I'm right. So next matchup we've got the Red Rifle, Andy motherfucking Dalton going into Philly to take on the Eagles. Now the Eagles, I'm a little concerned, Todd. I'm a little concerned about the Eagles. Okay. The injuries are piling up.
They are. We
don't know what's going on with Jalen. Lane Johnson's out.
He's out for the rest of the season.
And that
luckily not as bad as they thought it was going to be, though.
What, do they think he died? Like, what's worse?
So, no, I'm just saying they thought that this was going to be an injury that would require him to miss some time next year initially, too.
Okay.
So now he'll be back by early February. So not dead, but not playing football.
Good deal. Obviously a positive. And that secondary looked bad against Dallas. They looked bad. So I think they gave up almost 40 points to the Cowboys, if I'm not mistaken.
They did give up 40 points to the Cowboys.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, not ideal. You give up 40 points, you're not winning many football games. It's just a fact. Yep. You're not going to win many football games giving up 40 points. So just some things to be concerned about. I know Jalen didn't practice today. That being said, I think they do take care of business here against the Saints, who just aren't a good football team. I picked Andy Dalton last week against the Browns just because he was 12-5 against the Browns, and I like those odds. But it worked out. I think Philly is I think Gardner Minshew is enough to lead them over this Saints team that will probably miss the playoffs.
I think Gardner Minshew is a quarterback that could start for a few teams right now in the NFL. Like week 1 starter through the season.
Who?
Indianapolis.
Okay.
Right? Let's get the low-hanging fruit out of the way.
Sure, yeah.
Indianapolis, Houston, Washington,
New York,
Atlanta, the Jets.
What about the Giants? Yeah.
The Raiders. That's 7 teams right there, right off the cuff that I could.
What about the Titans?
Here's the thing. I don't think Ryan Tannehill's the problem in Tennessee, but I think Gardner Minshew does make them a little better, right? Okay. I think the versatility is there. So we're talking 8 teams, and that took us 15
Texans?
seconds.
Did you say the Texans already?
Yeah, I said
what about,
they were my low hanging fruit.
What about the Seahawks?
I don't know. I don't think the Geno Smith magic is quite worn off just yet. But I do put them in a similar category of guys that people have given up on that re-energize their career. I think that works out well. That worked out well for him. Up the Rams.
One more fringe.
With Matt Stafford going down.
One more fringe. The Lions.
Ooh, I don't think so. I don't think so. I like Jared Goff as a quarterback in the NFL. I really do. Regardless of what happened with him last year, I think he still has the stuff. I think he suits up for the Lions next year too. I don't think we see anybody else go into Detroit and start. But I do. Ryan brings up a good point. I mean, I could foresee Gardner in Nashville next year. It's the right culture, right, for him specifically.
Just the mullet and mustache, is that the culture?
That's the culture.
He's a white dude.
Yeah, no, I'm saying he's blue collared, right? He's a blue collar quarterback. He works hard and he's good with the team. They need that. Tennessee needs a guy that can go in and make an impact immediately because we've watched Malik Willis and I don't know if he's it.
But I think Ryan is making the point he definitely needs weapons, and the Eagles have that. The Titans, on the other hand, don't. I mean, Traylon Burks, is that it? Robert Woods, is that it? Like that's all we've got?
Robert Woods won't even be there next year. This is the end of his contract. He's gone.
Exactly. So I think the point is kind of being proven here that I'm not really sure that the Titans have anything for a guy like Minshew to step in and be that. But I would agree. I don't know that necessarily Willis is that guy, at least not yet. So a lot to be determined there. So Todd, here, are you taking the Eagles on this one over the Saints as well? Or
Eagles, yeah, I'm taking the Eagles.
Eagles, y'all. Yes, we love it.
That was for Rev. Yeah, I'm with you. The Saints beating the Browns last week was just to fuck up our pick'ems, I think, just to give you a little leverage. I think Andy Dalton heard you, and he said, "Oh, this guy's a Bengals fan. Let me get Red Rocket out one more time, even though he had
get it out one more time."
Zero
also, we're talking about a guy whose nickname J.J. Watt, which we forgot to fucking talk about, by the way. We'll get back to that here in just a second. We'll get back to who J.J. Watt called the Red Rifle. This guy is playing in Cleveland, the home of A Christmas Story. All right, we forgot to mention all of these things that are just lining up to exactly why Andy Dalton was going to win that game.
It all came around. The stars aligned.
They absolutely did. Yet I'm the only one that took them. Yeah. But also, let's diverge here a little bit. J.J. Watt announcing seemingly out of nowhere that he is retiring. I mean, I was very surprised, weren't you? I mean, it's fucking crazy, right?
I'm surprised at how abruptly he's done it.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised because he hasn't really been healthy for the last
10 years.
Yeah, 4 years. I mean, there was a stretch where he was the best player in football. Don't forget that.
Sure.
For 3 or 4 years, he was it. He was the guy. He was an integral part of Houston winning football games. I'm honestly kind of sad because this is a guy. Thank you, Mo. This is a guy that, like, for us, he was kind of the centerpiece of, like, coming out of high school where we really, start to, obviously we played football, but you understand watching the NFL more and you start recognizing talent. Like, he was the centerfold of it. And now, he's going away.
I think this is it.
Really?
I don't think he's done. And let me tell you where I think he's going. Pittsburgh.
Oh, I hope not. It doesn't do anything for them, though.
Oh, it doesn't? Having TJ Watt and JJ Watt does nothing.
JJ Watt is this is not JJ Watt. This is not prime JJ Watt. This is
you don't need him to be. You don't need him to be. He can be the Jadeveon Clowney to the Myles Garrett. He can be the accent to that. He can be
I don't know.
He can be a nickel package. And I don't even think JJ Watt, here's my theory. He doesn't even want it for money. Do you know why he wants to play for Pittsburgh? Because TJ and Derek play for Pittsburgh, and he wants to play at least one season with his brothers. That's what I think.
Okay. I mean, the logic's there. I hear you on it. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So, yes, JJ Watt is not the disruptor, but he's still he is somebody you need to account for because he can still make a play. And while it may not be an every down guy, he could be a pass set defense where you got JJ and TJ on either side, and then you're just amped up through the middle. There's a little electrician joke for you.
I hear you. Look, if that happens, I think it's a great story. So I'm here for it.
Fuck that, dude! Like, get out of my division, JJ. I don't need it.
I love it, but don't play on Sundays, right?
Yeah.
Don't press him.
Just be a coordinator or something, Just be the mascot that they've never had in Pittsburgh. Just be a guy, just pumping steel on the sideline. That's all you just needed. Just fucking curls. That's all you need to be doing.
Amy, so we're on YouTube as well at Rally Towel Sports. You can find us on Facebook as well, Rally Towel Sports. And then if you're following the ticker on the bottom, it's got our TikTok and Twitter handle. I don't want to toot our horn here, but our Twitter's pretty fucking fire.
Yeah, I mean, you just tooted our horn, but it's okay. Yeah. It's all right. Yeah. It's all right.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. But no, Amy, we appreciate your interest, and we hope that you come back and look for more content too. We're not just a football podcast. As football winds down and things like basketball heat up, we will be diving more into the NBA and college basketball, as well as the MLB. As that, no matter how sad it is for us as Reds fans to talk about baseball, we will talk a little bit of baseball. But
the worst team in baseball now.
Yes. So if you projected 60 wins, Todd, 60 wins. All right, we're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. We're living on cloud nine right now.
We're vibing. We're gelling. Things are good.
We're good. Football season, baby. We don't have to focus on that shit. All right. Awesome question, Amy. We appreciate you. So at Rally _towel_S on Twitter. Go ahead and drop us a follow. All right. Moving on to a team that just won't die. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers playing host to the Carolina Panthers at Raymond James Stadium. This is the second to last game in our 1 o'clock slate. The Panthers, Todd, they had you saying they look good.
They had you good. I said it twice.
So are they beating? This is for all intents and purposes, this is for the NFC South.
They're beating Tampa Bay this week. They're beating Tampa
Bay. Wow.
I feel it. I feel it deep in my loins. I've watched Tampa Bay 2 weeks in a row now. 3 of the last 4 weeks, actually. And it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's ugly. The offense doesn't move. The defense is riddled with injuries. And Devonta Foreman is good. He's good. Like, that's the big thing for me is that guy can get you down the field. And all you really need to do is set up play action against this Tampa Bay defense, and he can do that for them. And I'm sorry, Tom Brady's not a threat anymore with over the air. It's just not. And I think that if you can eliminate anything 8 yards and less for him, you pretty much got him beat. We watched it against the Bengals, right? They gave up a ton of short midfield passes that got them down the field. And once they eliminated that with a little bit of pressure and then pushing people out of the box and further down the field, it was done. He was done. And I think Carolina has the ability to do that. And I'm going to say, I think they might win the NFC South.
You know, there's a lot of logic in the things that you're saying, Todd. There's a lot of reasons why I agree with everything that just came out of your mouth, but there's also a reason why I'm going to go the other way on this pick.
Is Tom Brady?
No, it's not. That's not why. It's the exact same reason I took the Dallas Cowboys over the Eagles last week. It's because Vegas tells me to. The Bucs are favored by 3. And that tells me to take the Buccaneers. In a toss-up, I'm almost always going to take the Vegas spread on these games that I just don't know. I look at who's favored. They're the home team. It is a must-win game for Tom Brady. If this game is close, I think the advantage immediately goes to the Buccaneers. If it is close at all, I think immediately we've seen him pull 2 of these games out of his hat. In that being the Saints game, this last 2 wins, actually, the Saints and against the Cardinals, pulling these out of nowhere. I think the Panthers are somewhere along those lines. This isn't a good team. This isn't the 49ers. This isn't the Bengals that they're going against. This is a team that they can hang one. If they can do that, I think coming down the stretch, they can pull this one off. I'm going to take the home team and the Vegas spread. I'm going to take the Buccaneers.
You know what? This is one of those. I'm going to give my quick soapbox here. This is one of those scenarios where, like, why does a team from East Division have to make the fucking playoffs? You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't wouldn't you love to see a 7-9 Lions team over a 7-9 Bucks or a 7,
absolutely.
8-9 Bucks or an 8-9 Panthers.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you love to see an 8-9 Lions team in the playoffs and actually have
absolutely
a chance? Because here's the thing: is that regardless of who comes out of the NFC South, they're going to get matched up with somebody like I don't know the Cowboys or something, and just get wrecked.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny though. I could absolutely see the Cowboys losing to the Buccaneers in the first round of the playoffs. I can absolutely see it happen.
I was literally just about to say, but I can also see Mike McCarthy fumbling the bag because he's a piece of shit coach and losing in the first round of the playoffs like he does every year.
Here it is. There it is. There's Todd's shot at McCarthy. He didn't get it in when we went over the the Cowboys game earlier, so I'm glad you had that opportunity.
I had Tennessee is their fucking Titans head coach could be a college football head coach in the next 2 years. We have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah. Fair point. Fair point. All right, moving along as my screen will load here for me into our last 1 o'clock slotted game. We are looking at the Cleveland Browns, who have been officially eliminated from the playoffs.
Eliminated. Sorry, Aaron.
Taking on the Washington Commanders in a must-win game for the Commanders, who new starting quarterback
Carson Wentz.
Taylor Heineke has been benched, and Todd, I think I know why. So a lot of people are saying, why would you bench Taylor Heineke? He's been playing great. You've been winning football games. That's just it, ladies and gentlemen. He's been winning football games. The way that contract is set up, Taylor Heineke only gets paid he gets paid a lot more when they win. Carson Wentz gets paid no matter what. No matter if he's, doing a Prince Harry impersonation on the side, it doesn't matter. he is getting paid. And from an owner like Dan Snyder, I think that means a lot. And that's why you're seeing Carson Wentz trot out there. That's why I'm taking the Browns. I don't believe in them. I don't believe in them at all. And I'm taking the Browns. Deshaun Watson is going to it continues to get more time, and you're going to see him starting to play better football. No matter what you feel about him or how you think about him or the things that he did or did not do, that doesn't matter when we're talking about what's going to happen on the football field. I think Deshaun Watson is going to continue to get better. And I think the Browns win this football game.
See, here's the thing. This is where I stand. I think Commanders defense is good. It's a good defense. But Carson Wentz, anytime. So here's if my memory serves me right, anytime I pick a team that Carson Wentz is leading down the field, I'm wrong. Almost every time. Right? I specifically remember a pick 'em last year in week 18 where I said, congratulations, Colts fans, you've made the playoffs. And look what happened to the Colts last year. So for that reason, I'm taking the Browns too. Because I've been so emotionally scorned by Carson Wentz in my short pick'em times on a podcast that I'm going against him because I just don't think he has.
You have PTSD. You have Carson Wentz PTSD right now.
Well, also
you need to take some psychedelic mushrooms to cure your Carson Wentz PTSD.
Also, he's just not good. And the Commanders' offense runs like way worse with him. I mean, Brian Robinson slowed down when Wentz came on the field last week, and that running game was kind of the centerpiece of them at least getting in position to score. And then Wentz comes in there, and he scrambles too fast. I'm taking the Browns. I don't like it, but I'm taking the Browns.
I like it. All right, let's see if we got anything coming in here. Go ahead and drop your comments and questions with any game. Doesn't matter if we've already covered it or not. Go ahead and drop them. Amy Cunningham, it's a must-win for Brady. She's riding with us right here. Brian already coming in saying, Houday, Bengals by 10. The Bengals fans has a bold statement. We appreciate you guys jumping in. I hope we get the chirping going. We are getting closer to that Monday Night Football matchup.
The illustrious Monday night matchup.
We've got 4 o'clock games, then, of course, the Sunday Night Football game, and then we will get to the Monday Night Showdown between Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. But first, A lot of turmoil happening in Vegas. What the fuck is new? As San Francisco heads in to Allegiant Stadium to take on the Raiders. And San Fran looking hot, Todd, looking like a Super Bowl contender. Pretty obvious that we're both taking the Niners in this one, right?
Yeah, look, I was going to make you bring in a new quarterback, you're not prepared for it. This 49ers defense is prepared for basically anything that you throw at them.
Sure.
And it's Jarrett Stidham, I believe, making his first NFL start, right? Not a recipe for success.
Obviously drafted by the Patriots 4 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years
ago. 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah. Had some snaps in the NFL, not super successful. I believe. I don't know if he's even thrown a touchdown in the NFL yet. I believe
is he from Auburn?
No. Is he?
Jarrett Stidham. Where's Jarrett Stidham from? I'm going to look it up for you right now. Go ahead.
I want to say he's a Bama guy.
Jarrett Stidham. I'm looking it up right now.
He is Auburn. You're correct.
He's Auburn. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
You were in the wrong school or right school, and I was in the wrong school in the same state.
There you go.
Yeah, quick and painless. I'm taking the Niners here. They're hot. The Raiders are ice cold. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of questions to be answered, as Josh McDaniels said this offseason for the Raiders and landing spots for Derek Carr. They brought in his weapon in Devonta Adams, his buddy from college, and it just hasn't looked good. And I'm not confident that it's going to get any better. So I have never really been a Derek Carr guy. I thought he is equivalent to Andy Dalton. I think he's equivalent to Ryan Tannehill. I think those are all guys that you can kind of put into that St. Kirk Cousins. I think outside of this year, to be honest with you, is kind of in that same realm for me. Just a guy that's kind of middle of the road. But this year we saw the worst of that road, and Derek Carr has underperformed, to say the least.
I'm just going to say that this is I'm not one to often admit defeat. Saying that he was a dark horse for MVP is one of the worst predictions I've ever made. Seriously, ever. I'm very often, or I'm very more often when I'm unwilling to eat crow. I'm eating crow on this one.
Yeah, we get it. It's okay, man. We all have bad takes. I disclosed some of mine last week. No need for me to repick those scabs. But we all have bad takes. Moving on to 7-8 teams. I'm, of course, talking about the New York Jets and the Seattle Seahawks. Now, is word on the street that Mike White is a go for this game? Is that accurate, Todd?
Mike White is a go, and Joe Flacco is a backup. Zach Wilson inactive again.
A healthy scratch, if I'm not mistaken?
A healthy scratch, yes.
A healthy scratch. That being said, the Jets currently favored by 1.5 on the road, going to the Seahawks. Todd, I'll go ahead and take this here. We're looking at two teams that have just been playing bad football. They are playing bad football. The last time the Seahawks won a game, December 4th against the Rams, they won 27-23. Mind you, that was not when the Rams were playing good football. I'm not saying they are now, but it wasn't then either.
Hey, just put up a 50 bomb, so they played good football at least for one day.
That's right, they did. Last time the Jets won a football game was November 27th against the Chicago Bears, where they routed Chicago 31-10. Neither of these teams are in good form. That being said, I like what I saw out of the Jets when they had Mike White. I don't like what I've seen out of the Seahawks. I gave them 10 points last week against the Chiefs, and they couldn't even cover it. They couldn't do it. And they've cost me a $20 bet to charity. So I'm riding with Mike White. I'm taking the Jets in this one.
Yeah, I'm actually taking defense in this game. Right, and I think the Jets' defense supersedes what Seattle's able to do on the defensive side of the ball.
Good point.
Garrett Wilson has the right quarterback throwing him the ball again. I think that's a big piece of what makes the Jets fluid. And then you're going to see Zonovan Knight get back to running the football well. Here's my thing about Zach Wilson, and I think we've talked about him almost enough on this podcast, but there's something to be said. We've talked about a good coach as a player coach, is a guy that rallies around his team, gets the team hype. It's the same for a quarterback. If you're on the field and you don't trust your quarterback, or you don't respect your quarterback, rather, then you're going to have a hard time winning games. And, Zach Wilson's not a team guy. That was the thing that really has hindered New York in the last 2 weeks. Watching him flounder, fail, whatever F word you want to use for him. And I think the Jets are they're better with Mike White as a quarterback. I don't think we see any of these guys that are active roster quarterbacks for the Jets taking primary snaps next year. But if you're going to ride it out, I'd rather you ride it out with Mike White, Jets fans.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's questioning the power of that Jets defense. It's been something that they've been able to hang their hat on all year long. The only blunders that they had against the Lions was probably more on the coaching side, and a game that they probably should have won had they appropriately utilized their timeouts there. So, and that was with Zach Wilson at the helm. And I think they're playing a team that's been down, sliding down a little bit. Geno, you said earlier in the show that you don't really think the magic is kind of worn off there for Geno. He's still completing 70% of his passes, but they're just not winning these games any longer. I think teams have kind of figured out what they have to do to stop the Seahawks, and it's paying off here. So moving ahead, I think this is the second most interesting game on the slate. We've got a team that consistently being accused of being frauds. Nice crack there, Todd. I appreciate that. A team that has the lowest point differential for any 12-3 team in the history of the NFL, taking on a team that is, why won't you fucking go away? Why won't you go away and die? Hot? Yeah, hot. I'm, of course, talking about Minnesota going to Lambeau to take on the Green Bay Packers, who are surprisingly 7-8 and in control, potentially, of their own destiny. Should they win this game, things are going to get very interesting for the Packers as they as they host the Lions on Week 18. Yep. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's look at this matchup right here. Who do we got?
Dude, here's the thing: is anytime that I've taken the Vikings, I've been correct except for one time. One time I go against them, I'm wrong. Right? I took them against the Bills. Somehow that weird Kevin O'Connell met. I think the dude might be into voodoo witchcraft bullshit. I think that's what's coming down to here. I think you get a first-year head coach coming into a team that has absolutely no fucking reason to be 12-3. No reason whatsoever. They are out-rostered on any time you put, insert any offense up against the Vikings defense. That offense is better than that defense. And somehow they still win. They've surmounted the largest comeback in NFL's regular season history this year. There is luck sprinkled into that. That is not
something
all the time. Yeah. I'm taking the Vikings, and I'm thinking this is the end of the road for the Packers here.
Interesting point. Lions fans everywhere are rejoicing. Listen, this offense is clicking. This Green Bay offense is clicking. They are moving the ball effectively, and they've done so for the last couple of weeks. And there's something about January. Excuse me. Will we be in January at this point? Yes, of course we will. January in Lambeau. It's hard for me to bet against Aaron Rodgers, and I'm not going to. And I'm going to take the hot team. I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers to continue to win. The Vikings don't have a whole lot that they're playing for at this point. I don't really think that the number one seed is in their grasps. And the Packers have just been playing good football. What's the spread on this one, Todd? Do you have that handy?
Yeah, it's Green Bay -3.5.
So Vegas is justifying my call to action here and riding with.
And you went right with your traditional logic is right on path there.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. It's not. I feel really confident about this game too. I think the Packers are just playing a better brand of football right now. Let's be clear. Yes, the Minnesota Vikings led the largest comeback in NFL history, and that's amazing. And I'm sure that was fantastic for all these fans to watch. A lot of kids got that as a Christmas present going to that football game and stuff like that. And I'm sure it was really cool for Vikings fans to see that. But you gave up 33 fucking points to the Colts in the first half. The Colts.
Yeah.
You gave to Matt Ryan.
I hear everything you're saying. This game for me goes against there's no logic in this. This is me taking voodoo witchcraft Kevin O'Connell and just putting it into practice. I really do believe it. Look, Jay Jettis is just he's an athlete of a generation too. I think we're really fortunate to get to watch this guy get on the grass on Sunday and run routes. And let's not forget, Hawk had the best regular season game of any tight end this year last week. 12 catches for over 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kirk, I
don't think that Giants defense is a lot to take home, though. I don't think that was a lot. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. Yeah, no, I hear you. But I don't think this Packers defense is either. They're kind of real. They're kind of reeling. They're injured, right? We talked about injuries plaguing a team. Packers are kind of plagued on injuries right now, and I'm taking the witchcraft over logic right now. That's where I stand.
No, I like it. And we try and do this transitive property every single week. Well, they look this way against this team and this way against that team.
That's not how the NFL works.
It's not. It's absolutely not.
It's a beautiful thing about it.
So the final matchup in the 4:00 slate, we of course are talking about the city of Los Angeles. In my best Sam Elliott impression there, we got the Chargers hosting
renting the host,
hosting the Rams.
That's like going to somebody's house and having a birthday party for your kid and saying you're hosting it. You're not hosting it.
Here's the question. Are there going to be more Chargers fans or Rams fans there? Answer 49ers. There'll be more 49ers.
I was going to say neither. I don't know. There will be 15,000 people and 14,500 of them will just be wearing street clothes.
Yeah, just be like, oh, let's just go to they sell beer here and they're also $12 like every other bar in the area. So let's just go there. Yeah, let's go. Oh, what's that? An $80 cover charge? Yeah, fuck it. Let's go.
Yeah. SoFi Stadium has a waterfall. Let's go check it out.
This is the nicest club I've ever been to, dude. Bro. This is nice, bro.
Man.
Absolutely. I'm taking the Chargers in this one. I think they've been playing decent football. I picked them to lose last week, and they shut me the fuck up. So I'll pay respect where it's due. This is a head coach in Brandon Staley that 3 weeks ago, Todd, we were talking about on this podcast, is on the hot seat. Now they're on the verge of clinching the playoffs. And they have clinched the playoffs. Pardon me. They have clinched the playoffs, and I think that's kind of that conversation is pretty much gone. Are you ready to commit to the Chargers that can as a team that can make a run in the playoffs now?
No, I'm not there yet. I think that here's the thing. I think that their offense is healthy, and that's really helped them, right? I mean, you're watching Justin Herbert get all of his targets, but how many touchdowns did he throw against the Colts?
I'm not sure. Oh,
0. He did not throw any touchdowns against the Colts. Austin Eckler had their 2 offensive touchdowns.
That's true. Yeah, Austin Eckler is their leading receiver. He has more receptions, leaps and bounds, more receptions than anyone on that team.
Yeah. So that's where I still have my concerns with the Chargers is that the weapons are there. The targets are there. Everybody's back. Everybody's healthy on the offensive side of the ball. And Justin Herbert did throw a touchdown against a team that's, the foundation's gone. It's cracked. It's broken. That's where I get concerned about them. And I love that everything I've seen I'm gonna get on my soapbox again here for just a second because this is a Los Angeles team.
Do it, Daddy.
They control the media. Justin Herbert has immediately come back into these fucking top 5 quarterback conversations. What are we doing? What is social media doing that a guy wins 20-3, clinches a playoff spot? He's the best quarterback in that draft. He's a top 5 quarterback. They need to pay him $300 million. He needs a Pat Mahomes contract. I've read that 4 or 5 times. That dude has not won a playoff game yet. There is nothing for him yet. And here's the thing: I don't want to take Justin Herbert as a talent. I don't want to take that away from him until that guy wins me at least a playoff game, which I don't think happens this year. You can't put him in any conversation of being a top 5 or a top 10 quarterback. He has not won when it's mattered yet. Once he wins when it matters, I'll come back in. I'll reel it back in. I'll get my feelings. I'll set him aside, and then I'll put logic into it. But for right now, social media is wrong. He's not a top 5 quarterback. He cannot put the ball in the end zone when it matters.
So let's get some statistics on the table here. We'll go over the major indicators of a quarterback. I'm of course talking about completion percentage. I'm talking about total yards. We'll go about touchdowns. We'll go for, what do you think? Interceptions as well. Those are
interception. Let's do QBR
and QBR or rating. Which one are you preferring here?
QBR.
Okay. So completion percentage, Justin Herbert, fifth in the league in completion percentage. He's at 67 and change. In terms of yards, Justin Herbert is third in yards behind Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. Let's just throw yards per game in there. He is also third behind those two individuals. In terms of total touchdowns, the issue that Todd is raising here, Justin Herbert is 12th in the league in touchdowns at 21. Who has more touchdowns than Justin Herbert? Tom Brady, Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Derek fucking Carr, Aaron Rodgers, Tua Tagovailoa, Jared Goff, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. Let's take a gander at interceptions for Justin Herbert. Pretty good. I'm having to scroll a little ways to find. Oh, it's because I passed over him. He is actually at 10 interceptions. Derek Carr leads the league at 14.
14.
Yeah. And let's look at QBR was the other stat that you wanted to take a gander at here. Taking a look at QBR, Justin Herbert is 14th in the league. Some notable quarterbacks ahead of Derek Carr. Or of Justin Herbert, Derek Carr, Trevor Lawrence, Daniel Jones, Jacoby Brissett. Obviously, he has only played in a handful of those games. Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, Geno, Jalen Tua, Josh Patrick. Those are the quarterbacks ahead of Justin. So I think the issue that you're raising is not necessarily his ability to throw the ball or his ability to make completions. It's when it comes down to the crunch time, whether or not Justin Herbert can put the ball in the end zone by way of his arm.
We'll call it the 2-minute factor, it factor, whatever you want to call it. He has not proven that he has that at this level. And I respect – hey, Tim, how are you?
Hey.
And I respect that he's able to put the ball in the air, get the ball down the field, right? That's fine. Yeah. We've watched a lot of quarterbacks throw for a lot of yards. And
Jameis Winston.
That means absolutely nothing to me. You can complete 80% of your passes, but if the ball's not getting into the end zone, it means nothing. I don't care how many touchdowns Austin Eckler has either, because you should be able to throw the ball in the end zone too. And you should be able to create plays that get the ball over the air into the end zone. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, so we're both taking the Chargers in this one. We've been chalk pretty much for them for better half of these games here, Todd. Moving on.
Tommy, love you.
Tommy jumping in the chat here.
Love you, bro. Thank you.
Let's see here. Even though we will be enemies on Monday, I still love you guys. And we love you too, buddy. We thank you so much. Again, we are simulcast right now on the Mafia Sports Report YouTube page, as well as Rally Towel Sports. So whether you're coming to us by way of Rally Towel or Mafia Sports Report, do us a favor, go ahead and subscribe to both pages. You can catch our Twitter handle and TikTok handle scrolling down there on the bottom ticker as well. Awesome. Amy coming in with a comment. We'll console them on Tuesday, Tommy. Go Bills. Rally Towel Sports is a great listen. Thanks, Mafia Sports Report, for sharing. Todd, thank you so much, Amy. Thank you so much. You've been fantastic tonight. Obviously, this is honestly the best part when we get an awesome chat coming in and throwing out awesome topics and good engagement. You guys really make the show, so we appreciate you guys so much. Yeah. Time to get into the prime time games. We've got a heated AFC North matchup. The Pittsburgh Steelers at 7-8 going into Baltimore to take on the Ravens, who having locked up a playoff spot at 10-5. At 10-5. Lamar is going to be back?
He did not practice today.
Lamar didn't practice again today. It's just mind-blowing to me that without a contract, Lamar continues to be injured at the end of the season. It's just absolutely wild, Todd. Absolutely wild. Who are you taking in this one?
This is the one game for me that I've been really teetering on.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a little bit at stake here. If the Steelers win 8 games, I got $50 going to some charity at somewhere that Bobby gets to choose, right?
So what was remind everybody what the bet on this one was?
So the bet was that the Steelers so the over-under prediction for the Steelers going into the season was 7.5 games, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
I said that the Steelers would not touch that. And then
I think you're the only one out of the 4 of us that took the under on their total wins.
I did, and I said that if Mitch Trubisky is the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they will not win 7 games. And so far, I'm kind of right.
Kinda, yeah, sure.
But I did not anticipate them putting in Kenny Pickett so quickly because I thought by week 10 they'd be like, I don't know, 2-7, somewhere in that ballpark, and it would be an insurmountable comeback. That's really where my mind went. But they're 7-8, looking for win number 8, and this game is at Acrisure Heinz Field, right?
No, it's in Baltimore.
Oh, it's in Baltimore. Okay.
They never play this game in Baltimore, but they're playing at the end of the year. It never happens, but they're playing it in Baltimore this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: that Baltimore offense is buns.
It's buns. Booty
buns.
Meat. Yeah.
Booty meat, butt cheeks, buns. I'm taking the Steelers here. I'm eating a crow. I'm donating $50 to charity of your choice, Bobby, and it's because of this game this week.
Absolutely fantastic. So that Ravens offense is booty. It is booty cheeks. It stank. But guess what? That defense has been playing some good football, and they've been holding teams. They've been holding teams to some low totals. But when I'm looking at both of these teams, I think the Steelers defense also has been playing decent football. The offense, I think, is starting to kind of come around. Whereas when I look at the Ravens offense, that's not necessarily what I'm getting out of them. Obviously, the Steelers squeaked out a win against the Raiders last week, which in a game that I'm looking over as I'm watching this game against the Raiders on a night that they're honoring the late Franco Harris, and I'm looking at my father and I'm like, there's 0% chance that the NFL lets the Steelers lose this game. It's just not going to happen. Now I'm not saying that there were blown calls or any fishy, things happening or anything like that, but I'm telling you that there was absolutely no way that they were going to lose that game. They didn't. And honestly, I think they keep the train rolling here, and the Steelers take down the Ravens.
Let's go.
In an upset. So what's the line on that one?
I believe it is Baltimore 2.5. Yep, Baltimore
2.5. Woo-wee. Woo-wee. Man. We're making these picks on a Wednesday. If Lamar comes back, this is a completely different conversation. It's a completely different conversation.
So Tim brings up a good opinion of the chat in here, and he says he doesn't think he'll be in Baltimore after this year. And I think that we're kind of watching this become more and more realistic, right? I think you bring up a good point. Is you have a guy that's, while injured, right, MCL sprain. This is a contract year for him. This is a guy that will get tagged if he does not renegotiate. They have the ability to tag him for 2 more years, as a matter of fact. So what do you, if I'm Lamar Jackson, and I get it. We spoke earlier about coming back prematurely from injuries, but
yeah,
if I'm Lamar Jackson, I'm doing anything I can to get back out on the field and get that cheese, right? That's the big thing, is that he needs to get that money. And right now he's sitting on the bench not making any monies.
He's not
that next contract doesn't look as good for him. And that's the part I get concerned for him for if I'm thinking about Baltimore, is that what incentive does Baltimore have to give him a contract right now?
So they actually have a lot of incentive in terms of what that tag will mean. So a non-exclusive franchise tag is in the ballpark of $29 million for 1 season.
Okay.
An exclusive franchise tag, meaning that no team can match that offer. They have the exclusive rights to his playing ability within the NFL. They would have to release his contract in order for any other team to have a shot at him. $45 million.
So more than he would make in a season with a new contract, more than likely.
Yes. So the Ravens have a lot of incentive to get a long-term deal done. I'm going to echo a point that I made 4 weeks ago. I don't think they want to get a deal done. I don't think they want him there.
No.
I don't think that they think he is their long-term option, their long-term solution, their franchise quarterback. If they did, they'd already have a deal done. You're not letting a franchise quarterback get to this point in their contract without having a deal done. It's just not happening. Kyler Murray, for God's sakes, got a deal done, right? Patrick Mahomes obviously went off and won a Super Bowl, but they got a deal done right away, right? When I would say even if they didn't win the Super Bowl, just going to the Super Bowl, they know that this is their guy. They know that this is what they want to ride with for the next 10 years. They're gonna lock him down for as long as possible. It's not happening in Baltimore. It's not happening. Where he ends up, I have absolutely no idea. Obviously, Detroit is the hottest take. That's where he ends up.
Jets. Jets.
That would be interesting. That's fucking interesting, man. Obviously, have a lot more weapons there. Obviously, Breece Hall coming back next year for the Jets. Garrett Wilson. There's a lot to like out of what you're seeing there, and that defense is stout. So that would be absolutely interesting. Absolutely interesting. So we'll see. We'll see where it ends up. But ladies and gentlemen,
we're here.
You've hung with us for this long. We are going to witness one of the most anticipated Monday Night Football matchups in a long time. There's only one other Monday Night Football matchup where the win total of both teams combined has been this high, and I believe that was in 1997 between the Green Bay Packers and the San Francisco 49ers. There's only been one other matchup in the history of the NFL that has pit two powerhouses in the league against each other other than this one that we are going to see on January 2nd at Paycor Stadium as the Buffalo Bills head into Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Oh, boy, Todd, I am fucking jacked up for this matchup. Honestly, I love Bills Mafia. I love the fanhood. I love all their crazy fans, and Josh Allen is so much fun to watch. But I can't like them this week, baby, because our Bengals are taking them on. This is going to be such a fun game. Todd, let's start kicking some things around here. Let's start getting the chat fired up. I want to hear what's going on for this game. What are you looking for? What do you like? What are we looking at here?
So, Bills Mafia, if you are not aware, obviously there's two Bengals fans you're staring at right in front of us. We're right here.
Or listening. For those of you that don't know, we're also on Spotify.
If you're listening, I'm pointing over here. Me and this guy are Bengals fans. So, before I get started, I just want to echo what Corey said. Bills Mafia, you guys are incredible. We love you. We appreciate your support. But for the next 4 or 5 days, we're not friends right now.
We're just not friends right now. Right now, we're just taking a break.
We're taking a quick breather. We still respect you.
Yeah,
we'll
absolutely.
love each other again on Tuesday, but for right now, we're not friends.
Absolutely. We have a lot. We both these franchises have a lot more on their minds than the result of Monday's game. Let's just put it that way.
Absolutely. Because we're looking at the matchup that, to me, more than likely is the AFC championship matchup.
I think so. But right? Go on.
So I'll pick one thing from each side or from each team that I'm going to be looking at for this game. So I'll start with the Buffalo side. So for the Bills offense specifically, obviously the rushing game isn't much of a factor for Buffalo this year. Josh Allen, I still believe, actually he was just passed this week by Devin Singletary as the team's leading rusher, right at less than 1,000 yards. Actually pretty close to the same amount of yards as Joe Mixon, who missed 3 weeks, or 2 weeks, excuse me. But the big thing I'm looking for from Buffalo is, what are you going to do on 3rd and long, right? That's where the Bengals do very well on the defensive side of the ball. And that's where I've watched Buffalo, specifically when you get into the latter part of the games where it gets a little bit tougher, the game gets a little bit closer. That's where I see Josh Allen make some mistakes. That's where I see Buffalo have a hard time getting the ball down the field, giving the ball back to the other team, and letting them get back and score. So I think Buffalo's recipe to success is to avoid anything on third greater than 5. Yeah. Right. Obviously, nobody wants to be in that scenario regardless. That's an easy place to be. But if you're going to be in that scenario, I think the Bengals defense outmatches Buffalo's offense. Now, there's not a cornerback that covers Stephon Diggs one-on-one. I just want to preface that too. I'm not saying that there's anybody on the Bengals side of the ball that's going to be able to cover Diggs one-on-one, because he's the superior talent between anybody in the NFL right now that covers it. But if the Bengals defense does anything, they make the right adjustments. They make the necessary changes that they have to when the game starts sliding a little bit on the field in the opposite direction. They make the necessary adjustments and they fix the problem. So I think if you're a Buffalo fan, let's see what you do on 3rd and 5+. Now for the Bengals, what do you do when you get the ball back on a turnover on downs? Because this Bills defense is not an easy matchup. There's going to be a lot of pressure. There's going to be a lot of times Burrow has less than 3 seconds to get the ball out, and we've seen him struggle with that. And I think you're going to see the Bengals get stifled a little bit with running the ball with running the ball as well. Ed Oliver is a force, right? I mean, we're talking about DJ Reader on the Bengals defense being such a great run stopper. Oliver is kind of one and the same. You draft him for that reason, right? You bring him in, and that's his ability. But this is where I think the Bengals get a little bit better. 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. They make the necessary adjustments. They do what they have to do.
Statistically, one of the best third down teams in football right now.
And they chip away, right? So we watched Cincinnati do it 3 weeks in a row now, excluding the second half of the New England game and the first half of the Tampa Bay game. They chip away. They just take time off the clock and time off the clock and time off the clock. Yeah. And they put points on the board, whether it's 3 or 6 or 7, points usually come back. So I see Cincinnati taking advantage of getting the ball in better field position than they have in the last 2 weeks for 4 full quarters. Because to me, this is the best matchup of the entire NFL season thus far.
I don't think there's any other. I would like to see a healthy Eagles against the Bills or the Bengals. I'd like to see. I think that's the only other matchup that I'd really be in. Maybe Niners, Bills, Bengals, Niners, Eagles. Like those are the teams I want to see right now.
Yeah,
and we're lucky enough to be getting them right now. Yeah,
but I think the big thing, Corey, for me is I just don't know how Buffalo stops all 3 wide receivers. I just don't see it happening. If there's any area of Buffalo that has had the gaps, it's their secondary. Right.
So let me get into this a little bit here. So this is tweeted out by Joe Goodberry. Bengals fans very familiar. Bills fans probably very familiar with his brother. The
Goodberry variant.
Yeah, who's a big Bills fan. So the Goodberry Bowl happening on Monday night in Cincinnati. But these are from Pro Football Focus. These are the numbers. These are the rankings. Let's start with the defense, because we talked a lot about the defense of each team. So in terms of overall defense, Cincinnati ranks 11th. The Buffalo Bills rank 17th. In terms of tackling, how is tackling graded? The Bengals are the 8th best team at tackling in the league. The Buffalo Bills are the worst. They are the worst tackling team in football, as graded by Pro Football Focus. In terms of pass rush, the Cincinnati Bengals at 20th. This is where I think the Bills can win. The Bills are ranked 5th. They are the 5th overall team in pass rush, as graded by PFF this season. Obviously, they've lost a step in that, winning, considering Von Miller being out for the entire season. But still something that the Bengals are going to have to deal with, especially with Hakeem Adeniji stepping in to fill that void for Lyle Collins, who is out for the season now at right tackle. Rush defense. The Bengals are 15th in the league at rush defense. The Bills are 27th. This is the area of concern for the Buffalo Bills. Todd, you had mentioned that you weren't sure if the Bengals are going to be able to get the run game going. I think this could be a big run game for the Bengals, and Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine. Not just one of these guys. They both have proven to be effective sources of production out of that running game. And I think quick passes and rush and RPO type style offense is what you're going to see out of the Bengals going into this matchup, given those concerns. Coverage. The Bengals are 7th in the league at coverage. The Bills are graded the 11th best team. Both teams fairly decent in terms of the coverage grades. Special teams, both teams near the bottom half, 18th for the Bengals, 22nd for the Buffalo Bills. Flipping the coin and looking at the offense. Let's look at overall. I digress. Let's look at the offense. The Bengals are the 4th highest graded offense in the NFL. The Bills are the 13th highest graded offense in the NFL. Not a lot of people would guess that. A lot of people would probably say, if I just put these two numbers up, 4th and 13th graded offense as per Pro Football Focus, one of them is the Bengals and one of them is the Bills. Which one's 4th and which one's 13th? I think a lot of people would probably lean towards the Bills being the higher graded team there. That's just not the case. In terms of passing offense, the Bengals are the best passing offense in football. The Bills are the 5th best passing offense. Nothing to shrug off there. I think you're splitting hairs at that point. When you're talking about these upper echelon grades, these top tier grades, 1st and 5th, the difference isn't that much that drastic. Yeah. Receiving, the Bengals are the 2nd best receiving team in football, while the Bills are the 14th. Pass blocking, kind of similar to when I was talking about passing, 1st and 5th, splitting hairs, 30th for the Bengals, 22nd for the Bills, kind of splitting hairs in that regard. Running rush offense, the Bengals 11th, the Bills 3rd. We've mentioned that a lot of that rushing offense has been Josh Allen. We'll see what that looks like as they stack up on Monday night. Run blocking, the Bengals are 17th, the Bills are 28th. Overall, PFF grades these teams as 6th and 9th in the league overall, the Bengals and Bills respectively. We have two very close teams here, Todd. What I'm looking at are those things that you talked about that we just mentioned. The pass rush of the Bills. What are they going to be able to do to affect Joe Burrow? How quickly is Joe Burrow going to be able to get the ball out of his hands? How effective is the rushing game going to be for the Bengals? And is Josh Allen going to be able to make the right decisions? Because we have seen a couple of times this year in the last month or so, there have been some bad choices by Josh Allen and some bad throws. And if there's anybody in this league from a defensive coordinator perspective that is able to scheme up something to confuse a quarterback, it's Lou. It's Lou Anarumo. Probably the best defensive coordinator in the league at this point, and I don't think there's many people questioning that. Those are the keys to the game. Amy coming in with a comment here. Do you guys have turf or grass? I believe the Bengals have turf, Todd, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's the new generation of the rubber pellet turf.
Yeah. So turf, not grass. So Joe Burrow has mentioned he likes actually playing on turf better. There's not necessarily a lot of people that have echoed that point. I've heard quite the opposite. A lot of people think they would rather play on grass, but I think in these cold conditions, sometimes that grass, man, that can get tough. That can get pretty tough. I think
concrete.
Yeah, Jared Goff even said it about playing down in Charlotte against the
concrete.
Panthers. That it was like playing on concrete at Bank of America Field. All right, Ty, I think it's time to make our picks. Who you taking? Let's throw out a score prediction as well. We got the Bills. We got the Bills favored by 1.
I knew you were going to do that. Oh, let's see. Well, so obvious, maybe not obvious. I'm taking the Bengals here.
Okay.
Right. And I'm calling it 27-24 game Bengals.
Okay. What's the key to the game? What sets it apart? What gets us to that score, Todd?
Capitalizing on a turnover.
Okay.
One interception from Josh Allen turns into a touchdown, and that's the game.
Interesting. The Bengals are 1-point home underdogs here, and I don't think it should be taken lightly as to how crazy this stadium is going to be on a Monday night, especially
They're selling standing room only tickets at this moment. Everything else is sold out. Standing room only.
Obviously, you can get second market tickets and things like that, but going through the Cincinnati Bengals, the only thing that you can get through the Bengals is standing room only. Is going to be a packed house for sure, as it should be. Both these teams deserve the utmost respect, and we want to convey that here, that we think that this is going to be an absolute fantastic game. There's a reason it's only a 1-point spread. Looking at over under right now of 49.5 as well. I'm taking the Bengals, and I'm taking them 27-21.
Okay.
And I think that the reason that the Bengals win this football game is because they put themselves in a position offensively to where Joe Burrow isn't having to sit back and wait for things to get open. And that's all coming down to play calling. That's all coming down to execution. And that's all coming down to scheme. The way the Bills win this football game right now, I'm telling you right now, is if they can get that offense out of a groove. Because if you can get them out of a groove, if you can shut them down, and you can get things going on your offensive side of the ball, keep Joe Burrow on the sideline, that's how you beat the Bengals. You keep them off the sideline. You sustain long drives that score touchdowns. Field goals aren't going to do it. It's not going to do it. Won't happen. You saw what happened to the Buccaneers. Field goals don't cut it. They don't. You have to score touchdowns against this team. And if the Bills can do that, then they can absolutely win this football game. I can see it going either way. Obviously, taking the homer pick. I got to ride with my boys. It's going to be a hell of a matchup. It's going to be so much fun.
It's a great game. It's a great game. Unbelievable. I think, honestly, even as we projected the season, right, as we've gone through this podcast, I don't think that we predicted the volume that this game speaks going into the playoffs, right? Because I think that we saw both teams being in the playoff picture, right? But this is potentially for the number one overall seed in the playoffs. Yeah. Obviously, you need Kansas City to lose a step. Right. You need Kansas City. If you're a Bengals fan, Bills fan, you just need to win out. You just need to win out, and you're going to hold on to that number one overall seed. Bengals fans need help from either the Broncos or is it the Raiders? I think is who the Chiefs end the season with, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so, it's not likely for the Bengals, but the thoughts out there, right? The wheels are spinning for something like that to exist, and for Bills Mafia and Bills fans, you just got to win. That's it. That's your recipe. Is you win out, you get that week off, you get to sit back and relax and just watch football and not have skin in the game, which that has to be great. Yeah, absolutely. And then the road to Glendale runs through Buffalo at that point for the AFC. Obviously, there are two other teams in that conversation that hoping that that's not the case. But we will see how everything pans out. Either way, I have a feeling this is not going to be the last time that we see these two teams play each other. It is eerily similar to the matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals last year in Cincinnati in Week 17. Hopefully we get just as good of a football game, and all you Bengals fans hopefully get the same result. But Bills fans, we appreciate you coming out and hanging out with us tonight. You guys have been fantastic. Shout out especially to Amy. Thank you so much. Great show. Guys, get your crying towels ready. Sorry, maybe next year. Go Bills. Put some respect on that, Amy. You're talking to the defending AFC champs in the Cincinnati Bengals over here, okay? No, but we appreciate everybody. Appreciate you tolerating two Bengals fans running the podcast tonight. We didn't do too bad.
We didn't do too bad. We try and play a little bit of the bias, but we got to flex on them when we can. We don't get that opportunity too often. But next week, we will have Aaron and Bobby back. Be sure to tune in next week to see where we're at in the pick'em. Am I going to maintain the lead? Todd, Bobby going to make a run? Is Aaron going to keep falling down the rankings or resurge back to the top? Who knows? Tune in next week and we will find out. But thank you all so much. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter. For Todd, I'm Corey. We'll see you next time, guys.